Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Josh Black, a senior concept artist at Stoke Games, and I also teach figure drawing and anatomy online on Gumroad and Proko.com, where you can find my tutorials. I'm also putting together a Patreon, which has been in the making for a while. I'm hoping to do that soon. In this video, I really wanted to share a small sample of this huge head painting tutorial that I'm putting together. It's definitely going to be like the largest, most comprehensive tutorial that I've done so far. And this is just a small section of where we go over the anatomy structure of the nose. And in this tutorial, head painting tutorial, we're going to go over the nose, the mouth, the lips, the ears, hair, pretty much everything about painting face, and then we'll do full-on paintings, portrait paintings, where we go into black and white renderings and renderings. Yeah, this is just a small sample of what's to come. I hope you enjoy it, and definitely let me know what you think. And until next time, okay, enjoy the rest of the video. Bye. Okay, in this section, we're going to break things down even further, finding more of the kind of secondary and tertiary planes of the nose, still trying to keep things somewhat abstract. And I thought this was a great reference image for that exercise. And so what I want to do before we do the drawing off to the side here, I'm going to draw over this image just to kind of describe some of the forms and anatomy that we're looking at, similar to the previous section, but in more depth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, I'm in Photoshop, so I just did Control U to pull up hue and saturation sliders. And I'm going to just increase the lightness so we can draw over this and see the line more easily. And then we'll just do, yeah, I'll just do the red. So again, we'll just do a quick breakdown here. So this keystone shape in between the eyebrows, again, is called the glabella. Let's label it glabella. And again, here we can kind of see the top planes of the nose. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that simple design or structure we learned in the previous section. Be very simple. Then we'll break it down more. I believe right here is probably where the end of the nasal bone would be, and that forms about half of the 2/3 portion of the top plane of the nose. So that's the nasal bone, and again, that consists of bone, which attaches to the skull, and the nasal bone probably comes down here off to the side and feeds into the maxilla, which is also part of the skull. The maxilla kind of feeds into the zygomatic cheekbone, and the maxilla, again, which is bone, helps form the side planes of the nose. Maxilla. So the maxilla feeds into the nasal bone. And again, this is the kind of where the tear duct starts, and then the most inner part of the tear duct, that is the That is the lacrimal caruncle. Lacrimal caruncle. It's kind of a mouthful. We'll just spell it here off to the side. Lacrimal caruncle. We'll be going over that more in the eye section. Okay, so here we have the nasal bone, which helps form the top of the top plane of the nose. And you can see like a little bit of a ridge that it forms off to the lateral side. And again, that will feed into the bottom half of the top 2/3 of the nose, which would consist of the lateral cartilage. And that feeds down into the bulb of the nose, which is this area here, that bulbous part of the nose. And that is actually made of cartilage as well. And that cartilage is called the greater alar cartilage. And that consists of two parts, two sides, like two halves that conjoin in the middle right there. And then the wings of the nose, the nostrils, they're actually made of fat, and it's called the alar fat. And they attach to the lateral sides of the greater alar cartilage, and their kind of lateral edge, feeds into the lateral edge of the bulb of the nose. See that nice kind of thick edge line on the base of the nose. And the base of the wing kind of has this nice hook on the backside of the alar fat of the nostril. So again, like this whole area kind of has thickness to it, this bottom edge of the nostril. And even the backside has some thickness to it, and it hooks back in, pointing back towards the septum of the nose. And that's really important to indicate, especially when you're painting. Otherwise, it will look like paper thin, and it won't look natural. And then this kind of in between part of the nose, of the middle of the nose, is called the septum. And the septum comes all the way down, and it will also have kind of a hooked shape that goes back in and feeds into the philtrum. This is the philtrum here. It's that little furrow in between the lips, the top two portions of the upper lip. philtrum. All right, so there you have it. That's just kind of the basic anatomical breakdown of the nose. And so we're going to try to draw that now off to the side, and we'll try to kind of break the planes down um, and simplify them still. And then after this section, we're going to do a series of gestures, keeping all these things, all these learnings in mind. Okay, let's save it. Okay, so I actually already attempted to do this section and the recording didn't work, but I wanted to show you what the end product was. This is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to repeat what I just did. We're going to draw the basic structure of this guy's nose and quickly break down the anatomy and describe how knowing the planes of the nose will really help inform your lighting and rendering of the nose. Knowing where to place the cast shadows, what thickness those cast shadows should be, determined by how sharp or crisp um, those planar changes are and those edges are, and also like where to put the dark accents and things like that. So yeah, let's get started. We'll just hide that previous attempt and we'll start again. Okay, so where I like to start, honestly, is with that keystone shape of the brow, the glabella. I like starting off with the glabella because it helps ensure that the rest of the structure of the nose will be centered in relationship to the rest of the face. So yeah, I'll quickly just do a light gesture of that shape, of the keystone shape, and then I'll pull out kind of the basic gesture of the nose. Essentially repeating what we did in the first section, but I'm going to do it with a much lighter line, with a softer edge. Okay, so now that we have this basic gestural lay-in, we can start building off of that. And so again, this is the glabella up here. And the nasal bone feeds into the glabella. And here I'm trying to indicate where it meets the glabella and also kind of where it ends before it transitions into the lateral cartilage of the nose. Again, the nasal bone will help form the top part of the top plane and a portion of the side plane of the nose. And if you had x-ray vision, you'd kind of see, the nasal bone kind of curves back that way. And so the side of the nasal bone will transition into the maxilla, which is also part of the skull and helps form kind of that bottom line of the ocular cavity, where the eye is, the eyeball is. I'm just going to do some grid lines to help show you the basic topology of the maxilla, how it feeds into the side plane of the nose. And again, this is super helpful to go over this exercise, to go over the planes of the nose, because it will make it so much easier for you to render and illustrate the nose once you have this basic knowledge of the basic planes and anatomy. Um, okay, so again, this top portion here of the top plane is the nasal bone, and that will feed into the lateral cartilage, which comes to kind of an arrowhead or point, and that's made of cartilage, this area here. And we'll create a thinner core shadow when we're lighting the nose. And that point at the bottom of the lateral cartilage will indicate where to bifurcate the bulb of the nose, which again is, this area here, which is made of the greater alar cartilage. Okay, so I'm just going to continue this division line so you can kind of see the center or symmetry of the nose structure, even though this is a 3/4. And so we have that plane here in the bottom front, and then it comes down into the septum. And hooks back into the philtrum down here. Remember, the philtrum kind of hooks back towards the hook of the nostril, and it has thickness to it, so you want to make sure you indicate that thickness, and its contour will feed into the contour of the nostril here. And then we have the structure of the wing of the nose, which is made of alar fat. This is the wing. And again, that also has thickness on its bottom planes that hook back in towards the septum. So you want to be sure to show that. You can see that softer edge that divides the side plane of the nose with the bottom plane of the nose. And then we'll just kind of fill that in with value with the shadow. And I'm just going to go ahead and block in that cast shadow. And the light source is definitely a strong directional light, so the cast shadows are going to be quite a bit darker. And we have the dark accent within the nostril where it's completely occluded from the light source. Then here too, in that crease of the nose, I'm going to get a dark accent. And this plane here will be more of a mid-tone. It's still catching some of the light source, but it's going to be a bit darker. And then here, this is all in shadow, so I'm just going to fill that in. And fill that in with shadow. Get a nice dark accent here in the corner of the eye. And then this more abrupt directional change of the planes here between with the nasal bone where it turns. It's going to be darker. We have a darker cast shadow there. I'm going to darken everything in the shadow. Remember that rule, you want all of your darks darker than your lightest or your darkest lights. So that will help you get a clean separation of your shapes. That's the nasal labial fold right there. I'm just indicating. So let's go ahead and we'll start labeling the anatomy here. I'm just going to roughly block in the placement of the eyes just so we can show their relationship with the construction of the nose. Okay, let's save it real quick. I just don't want to lose this like I did on the last one. Okay, so before we go in and quickly label everything, I'm just going to try to clean up the rendering on this just a little bit. You can see the cast shadow underneath his nose is quite a bit darker. And the reason for that is that directional light is more overhead and it's a pretty strong directional light. So those cast shadows are going to be darker. And we don't have very strong like underlighting. Just darkening the shadow side overall, so we have a nice strong separation of lights and darks. All right, this chapter we're not really even supposed to go over the lighting, so I'll just start labeling things for us. Um, let's get a little bit of this bounce light there. Just punch the areas of occlusion a bit more. Pull that back just a smidge. Okay, I'm getting a bit out of hand with the rendering. We're doing that in the next chapter, so I'll stop. Really, I just wanted to show you like how much the planes dictate the lighting, especially where the core shadows go, the thickness of the core shadows, and where the cast shadows go, and areas of occlusion. But we'll go over that more in depth in the latter section of this chapter. But we'll go back to breaking down the anatomy. Again, here we have the lateral cartilage. And that feeds up into the nasal bone right here. And nasal bone feeds into the glabella. And the lateral cartilage, remember, kind of forms a point that helps indicate the bifurcation of the two sections or segments of the bulb of the nose, which is made of the greater alar cartilage. Then the side plane, remember the side plane of the nose is partially formed by the side of the lateral cartilage, side of the nasal bone here, and then the rest of it's the maxilla, which then feeds back into the cheekbone or the zygomatic bone. So we'll label the maxilla. Um, then the wings of the nose, which is made of the alar fat. And then the septum, which is that middle bottom section of the nose that kind of separates the inside of your nose and then feeds back into the philtrum. All right, so that's kind of the basic anatomy of the nose that we need to know um, for more effectively rendering and representing a more realistic nose. So let's save this. I wonder if we can, yeah, I just want to take this first attempt and put it off to the side. I thought it was kind of nice to have this version, which kind of feels more like a diagram. All right, there we go. Okay, we'll save it.